What if I told you that a single dad janitor, a man often overlooked and forgotten, ended up dancing with the CEO's blind daughter at the most glamorous gala of the year, and in that single dance, he unraveled a secret so powerful it shocked the entire elite gathering? Stay with me until the very end, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a revelation that proves appearances can deceive us all. And before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more incredible stories that touch the heart and open the mind. The gala was the kind of event that dripped in glitter and grandeur. Held in the ballroom of the city's most prestigious hotel, it was a gathering of wealth, power, and status. The chandeliers sparkled like crystal suns above rows of executives in tuxedos and gowns stitched with diamonds. Servers in white gloves weaved through the crowd with trays of champagne, and an orchestra played in the corner, their music lifting the night with elegance. Yet, as spotless as everything appeared, behind the scenes a janitor named Ethan was quietly working, ensuring no glass lay shattered, no mess disturbed the rich atmosphere. Ethan was in his early 30s, a man with tired eyes yet a warm smile that lingered even when no one noticed him. He wore the plain uniform of the hotel staff, pushing a cart filled with cleaning supplies, invisible to the guests who barely glanced his way. But Ethan carried a secret no one in that room could imagine. He was a single father, raising his young daughter after his wife's passing. His heart had endured storms, yet he worked with dignity, never letting the world see his struggles. On the other side of the room sat Isabella, the CEO's daughter. She was 22, draped in an elegant blue gown that shimmered as though woven from the night sky. But what made her stand out wasn't the dress or her graceful posture. It was her eyes, calm yet distant, for Isabella had been blind since birth. To many, she was a symbol of fragile beauty, a treasure sheltered from the world. Yet to her, life was a lonely journey, with people treating her either as a burden or as someone to pity. Her father, Mr. Donovan, the CEO, was a man of steel, a billionaire with an empire spanning industries. He loved his daughter, yes, but he guarded her fiercely, rarely letting her interact with people he deemed unworthy. As the gala continued, the orchestra struck a new tune, and couples drifted toward the dance floor. Laughter, clinking glasses, and the rustle of gowns filled the air. Isabella sat at her table, hands folded neatly, listening to the rhythm. She longed to dance but no one approached her. They either feared her blindness or assumed she wasn't capable of sharing the moment. To them, she was fragile glass. To her, they were walls she couldn't climb. It was then that Ethan, passing by with his cart, noticed her. He paused for a second, watching as she tilted her head toward the music, her lips whispering silent words of the melody. Something stirred in his chest. Against reason, against the invisible barrier between their worlds, Ethan walked up to her. Gently, with humility, he said, "Would you like to dance?" Isabella turned toward the voice, surprised. For once, it wasn't someone trying to shield her or someone dripping with pity. His voice was steady, respectful, almost ordinary. She smiled faintly. "You're not one of the guests, are you?" she asked softly. "No," Ethan admitted. "Just a janitor." "But music doesn't know uniforms, does it?" For a moment, silence stretched. Then Isabella reached out her hand, delicate yet certain. "Then let's dance." The room seemed to freeze as the janitor led the CEO's blind daughter to the floor. Murmurs spread among the wealthy crowd, their eyes wide with disbelief. The orchestra played, and in that spotlight of whispers, Ethan placed Isabella's hand gently on his shoulder. Step by step, he guided her, not as someone broken but as someone whole. She moved with grace, her trust in his guidance unshaken. Together they glided across the floor, and soon, the murmurs shifted into awe. But just as the dance reached its beauty, something happened. Mr. Donovan, the CEO himself, strode into the spotlight. His sharp eyes locked onto the pair, fury masked beneath a calm facade. "Enough," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. The music halted. Gasps rose from the audience. Isabella froze, her hand trembling on Ethan's arm. "Father," she began, but Mr. Donovan cut her off. "Do you have any idea who you're dancing with? Do you know what this man is?" His voice cracked like thunder. Ethan lowered his eyes, ready for humiliation. But then, something unexpected happened. Mr. Donovan's hand trembled. His face paled. And his voice softened with something almost like fear. "I know you," he whispered to Ethan, his words carrying a weight that silenced the entire gala. The crowd leaned in, curiosity clawing at the air. Who was this janitor, and why did the CEO's voice shake as though he were facing a ghost? And that, my friends, is where the real story begins. Don't go anywhere, because in Chapter 2, the secret that tied Ethan and Mr. Donovan together will come crashing into the light, shaking every soul in that ballroom. Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because the next part of this story will leave you stunned, and you won't want to miss what happens. The gala room stood still as Mr. Donovan's words cut through the air. Guests whispered among themselves, unsure whether they were watching a scandal or a drama more intimate than they could imagine. Ethan's heart pounded, but he stayed calm, his arms still steady around Isabella. She couldn't see the looks, but she felt the tension pressing down. "Father," she said firmly, "you're scaring me." "What's going on?" "Mr. Donovan exhaled sharply, his jaw tightening. "This man," he said, pointing at Ethan, "isn't just a janitor. Years ago, before you were born, his voice cracked, and he stopped himself. He closed his eyes, as though a memory too heavy had returned to him. Ethan finally spoke. His voice was low but steady. "Tell her the truth, Donovan. She deserves to know." The crowd's whispers swelled. Donovan, a man who had built empires, seemed cornered by a janitor's words. At last, he nodded, resigned. "Ethan is my brother." The ballroom gasped. Shock rippled like a wave. Isabella's lips parted, stunned. "Brother?" she whispered. "Yes," Donovan admitted. "We were raised in the same house, but we took different paths. I chose power, wealth, control. Ethan chose love. He walked away from everything, our inheritance, our business, even me. He said a man's worth wasn't in gold but in the family he built. I mocked him. I cast him out. And I never forgave him." Tears burned at Ethan's eyes, but he stood tall. "And you never forgave me for marrying the woman you loved." The room gasped again. Isabella trembled. "Mother?" she asked, her voice breaking. Donovan's face twisted in pain. "Yes. She chose him. And I hated him for it. But when she passed away, Ethan raised his daughter alone. I buried myself in business to escape the grief. But tonight," his voice faltered, his eyes falling on Isabella. "Tonight I saw him dance with you, and I realized I couldn't run from the past anymore." Isabella's tears flowed freely. Her blindness didn't shield her from the truth. She clutched Ethan's arm. You're my uncle." "Yes," Ethan whispered. "And I'm sorry you had to learn this way. But I'll never stop being the man your mother believed I could be." The crowd, once filled with judgment, now fell silent in respect. The janitor was no longer invisible, he was a man who had chosen love over greed, sacrifice over empire. And as Isabella held his hand, she smiled through her tears. "Then tonight wasn't a scandal," she said softly. "It was a reunion." Mr. Donovan's shoulders sagged, the steel melting from his frame. He approached slowly, his hand trembling as he reached for his daughter. For the first time in years, he looked his brother in the eye. "Can you forgive me, Ethan?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Forgiveness is the only thing that makes us human." And with that, the ballroom erupted in applause, not for wealth, not for power, but for a truth too rare in a world of masks, the courage to love, to forgive, and to dance even when no one believes you belong. So, dear viewers, if this story moved you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because stories like these remind us that even in the darkest places, family, love, and courage can still shine the brightest.